Mic check, 1 2 1 2. All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Tim, and I am back with another video. And today I want to discuss end user license agreement. If you are a music producer, a sound designer, beat maker, then I think this video may be useful for you moving forward. Because this is one of those things that does not get discussed when you're buying your stuff, you're buying your products, or you're making beats, or you're now trying to venture off and do different things. A lot of people don't talk about an end user license agreement and what it is and what it means for you as someone who purchases these products, be it a DAW, be it a sample pack, or be it a VST. And so basically what a EULA is it's the terms of agreement that the company sets for you as the consumer of their product. And it basically tells you how you can and can't use their product. Now, why is this important? Well, every company is different regarding how they set their terms of agreement. So some companies will allow you to use their products. Let's say if you buy, Native Instruments or UVI, any of their products, they will allow you to, create music that you can distribute. You can create songs, and those you can use their product to create songs, and those songs can be used or sold free of charge in most cases and released out to the public with no issues. Sometimes if you buy a sample pack, such as Sound Oracle or Decap, or I'm trying to think, maybe Ghost Hack, depending on what sample pack you buy, their terms of agreement may be set as to where they may allow you to use their stuff royalty free, and the only thing they may ask is that you don't try to redistribute their product as your own, as a new product, and sell it. Or sometimes they may say, hey, you can use this product to create music, but depending on how you release the music, they may ask for royalties. So it all depends on their terms of agreement. And it's very important that you as the consumer take the time to review these documents. Now, that's something that we don't normally do, as producers. A lot of us, per se, a lot of times we get our software and we just want to get to work. We want to make beats. We want to design sounds. We just want to do the creative process. However, it is very important that you look at these files before you get to work, or before you reach for that software and try to go ahead and make your first melody loop pack, or even before you make your first beat, depending on what you got, and place it on YouTube. So I want to say shout out to MG the Future and CMP, because they discussed this to some extent on their podcast, Spicy Sundays, and Curtis King on his video and his platform. He just recently discussed the importance of checking out Omnisphere. So what I've done here is I've pulled up a few EULAs from a few big name companies. One from Omnisphere, one from UVI, one from Native Instruments, one from Materia, and then one from the famous image line DAW creators of FL Studio. I know I probably said that wrong, but it'll be alright. So let's take a look at Omnisphere. And we're not going to read through the whole thing because I want to keep this short and sweet. However, I do kind of want to go over some main highlights. So Omnisphere, their EULA, they say, all right, can I use my instruments on more than one computer? Yes, no problem. I'm concerned about what would happen to my Petrosonics instrument if the company were to go out of business. Would I be able to authorize them? Yes. Let's see. Can I use Omnisphere on music libraries? Yes, this is fine. Some companies completely restrict this kind of user altogether, since music libraries can sometimes cross over into soundware business. But Petrosonics allows music library use. In fact, we have many customers that use our products in standard music libraries. Specific limitations about the library collection usage include the following. The music library must be in a mixed format. You cannot provide separate tracks in your music library if you want to use our products with our standard license. The intended audience for your music library collection must be to non-musicians. Interesting. So, in other words, if you were selling music for licensing, perhaps for film scoring or background music, you could use this product to create sounds and sell to those type of people or those type of consumers. Can I use Omnisphere in film trailers? Yes. Let's see. I just looked over it. Do I need to obtain a special license to use Omnisphere in a commercial product? No. The lifetime license fee to use the samples is covered in the purchase price of the instrument. You can use it as many of your own projects as you like, and we hope that you make some hits with it. So they encourage you to make tracks and make beats and all that good jazz with the product. You can even make music libraries, again, scoring films and so forth, and you don't necessarily have to credit them for using their product. Let's see where it gets dicey. Can I distribute the music I have created with Petrosonics produced as a multi-rack format? This is one of the things that is not allowed. You cannot distribute your music in a multi-rack format that completely exposes tracks created using our samples. The problem in this case is that separate tracks can then easily be reused in new tracks by the end user of the music who is not a licensed Petrosonics user. This then turns into a type of redistribution of our copyrighted samples as a derivative work, which is not allowed without special permission or a special type of license from Petrosonics. Interesting. They say multi-channel mixed music is not a problem. Interesting. As a studio owner, can I include Omnisphere on a rental or studio computer for clients to use? And they say no. So again, there are a lot of things here that they will not allow you to do with their products. Here's the big one. Can I use Petrosonics instruments or libraries to create loops or samples for distribution if I am layering them with other sounds or doing a lot of creative processing? Nope. At least not without getting special permission or an additional license from Petrosonics. Legally, this is considered a derivative work when our copyrighted sound recordings are involved in the creation of new samples or loops. So, in a nutshell, this is basically what they're telling you is you can use their product to make music, you can use it for film scoring, selling songs, commercial releases, and things of that nature. You cannot use this product, at least legally, to make a loop pack, a sample pack, a melody loop pack, and so forth with their product. And it makes total sense because Omnisphere or Petrosonics does not want you to create a product that competes with their product, at least not using their own stuff. I'll say that again. Petrosonics does not want you to use their product to create a competing product. All right? So, if you are into buying software and you want to create, sample packs loop libraries, things of that nature, and that's your main goal with Omnisphere or looking at software, you probably want to stay away from Omnisphere, Trillion, and Keyscape, as they are all owned by Spectrasonics. Now, this is nothing new, because if you look at Spectrasonics, and if you ever got the box or you go on their website and read what they use for their sound sources, they have used hardware to create their own sound sources. And they have either used the initial hardware that they have sound sources, they have either created patches using that hardware, or they paid a fee of their own from a company such as Korg, Roland, or Yamaha in order to get those waveforms and then use them in their own product. And so they paid a fee. And because Omnisphere in nature is sample based, they're not going to allow you to use, again, they're not going to allow you to use their stuff and, basically resell their sounds, which is it's a bummer. It's one of the things that kept me from buying Omnisphere, because I really liked Omnisphere and it sounds great from what I've heard, but for $475 to almost $500, I was not going to buy a product and then be limited by what I could not do with it in the realm of sound design, which is what a lot of people buy Omnisphere for. Again, let's take a look at another one, UVI. Now, UVI is very similar to Spectrasonics in that they are a sample-based company. So when you buy these products like the Vault Collection 1 and 2, and they have these synthesizers that they have brought to you, a lot of times those synthesizers have been programmed or reprogrammed, and they create those patches and they record those patches, and then they bring them to their product, and then that product then is presented to you. So again, because UVI is sample based in nature, you're dealing with pre-existing intellectual property. They have hired people to program those sounds and then record those sounds to be used in the product. So let's see what they allow you to do in user license agreement. Again, I'm not going to read this whole thing because this is boring, but they talk about stuff like protection software, ownership, restrictions, serial numbers. What I'm trying to get to is what they will allow you to do, except as expressly authorized in this agreement. You may not rent, lease, sublicense, distribute, copy, reproduce, display, modify, timeshare the enclosed product or documentation. UVI serials labeled as not for resale shall only be used for demonstration, testing, evaluation purposes, blah, 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 blah. All right. Term restrictions. Yep, nope. Take ownership of title to and the disclosed digitally recorded sounds, including any copies, are held by UVI. Copies are provided to you only to enable you to exercise your rights under the license. All right, here we go. License grant. Except if otherwise stated in this EULA, licensee may resell the software to a third party or transfer the software permanently. Request is done using the transfer license, blah, 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 blah. That's if you want to resell it. That's not what I'm looking for. UVI allows you to use any of the sounds and samples in the products you've purchased for commercial recordings without paying any additional license fees, providing the source attribution to UVI. However, this license expressly forbids resale, or other distribution of sounds and software included in the product or their derivatives, either as they exist on disk, reformatted for the use in another digital sampler, or mixed, combined, filtered, resynthesized, or otherwise edited for use as sounds, multi-sounds, samples, multi-samples, wavetables, programs or patches in a sampler, microchip, or any hardware or software sample playback device. You cannot sell the product content or give it away for use by others in their sampling or sample playback devices. Again, UVI does not want you to use their stuff to basically compete with them, which makes sense. Like, you know, when you think about it, and most people don't think about it in that terms, because if you're a creator, you pretty much look at it as like, I bought this product, now I got all the sounds of the Fairlight, of the synclavier, or the, you know, whatever synthesizer that they got. And so by default, you're thinking, well, I should be able to use this to do whatever. However, that's not the case, because again, the process of how these guys have gone to acquire those sounds themselves, by nature, because of how they did it, they decided that they don't want you to create a product that competes with their product. These companies have to go and find these samplers, these old pieces of software, you know, your old Korgs, your old Yamahas, your old Rolands, and then they go out, they hire somebody to design the sounds, and those sounds designed are, you know, in part of the agreement that they've had with that sound designer. They are now owned by the company, for the company to turn around and use for their own product. If you go and take that product and like, all right, I like that Moog bass line, I'm gonna take that and resell it. Well, basically, it's copyright infringement, according to how. Actually, not even according to how they set it up. According to law, it's copyright infringement, because the intellectual property, you're selling intellectual property that you don't own. So again, for these two, I would avoid, if you're not looking to buy any, if you're not using these products to make tracks, beats, music for commercial purposes, and you're looking at sound design, you probably want to avoid these unless you just want to deal with the hassle of a lawsuit. Now, here's Native Instruments. They're a little bit more lenient. Let's go to the scope of use. Blah, 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 blah. Not entitled to copy, decompiler, have compiled. All right. Grants licensee to non-exclusive right route, restricts time and place products. Native Instruments is not obliged to secede the software source code. Yep, can't mess with source code. Many computers, I'm looking for the very specific. May copy software if such reproduction is necessary for the contractually agreed use. Licensee is authorized to create a backup if it is necessary to secure the future use. Not authorized to modify the software unless it is to preserve, restore the agreed functions of the software purchase. I am looking specifically for, here we go, EULA. All right, here it is. In case a sound library is part of the purchased product, the following sound license agreement shall be in addition to the EULA. The provided samples, instruments, and presets can be used for commercial or non-commercial music and audio productions without the prior permission from Native Instruments under the terms of this sound license agreement. This usage of this product, in particular samples, instruments, and presets for the creation of a sound library or as a sound library for any kind of synthesizer, virtual instrument, sample library, sample-based product, or other musical instrument is strictly prohibited. Individual samples, sound sets or any audio loops may not be distributed commercially or otherwise standalone. Furthermore, these samples, sound sets, or audio may not be repackaged in whole or as part as audio samples, sound libraries, or sound effects. In addition, certain products from Native Instruments in the following shall apply. Bundles, which consist of hardware and software, can only be resold, transferred as a whole. Blah, 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 blah. This is the not for resale stuff. And I'm skimming down. All right. So basically, again, the samples, instruments, and presets can be used for commercial or non-commercial music and audio productions. But the usage of this product in particular, so this is important because they specify, in particular, samples, instruments, and or presets for the creation of a sound library or as a sound library for any kind of synthesizer, virtual instrument, sample library, yada yada, all that other good jazz is strictly prohibited. So, I'm not a lawyer, but in this case, they specify, because Native Instruments in particular, they use DSP, depending on what you use. If you have, for example, Razor or Reactor. Reactor is a DSP engine, meaning that it can create its own synthesis. Matter of fact, you can program the synthesizers to do whatever, especially in Reactor. But other programs such as like Massive, maybe Massive X, I'm thinking of like the analog software, the FM software, and the anything that has the DSP, like the additive stuff like Razor. You may be able to get away with using that to create your own sounds and patches. But again, they say usage of this product, in particular the samples, the instruments, and the presets, is prohibited, because again, those presets have been programmed by sound designers. Usually a company will hire out certain sound designers to make tones using that product, because again, they don't want to put out a bad product. They want to put out something that sounds good. So they'll pay people to design sounds for that product, that those sounds become the intellectual property of that company. So they do not want you to use their presets, their samples, or their instruments per se in order to make a competitive product. So again, these are the three majors, blah blah blah. Arteria has something similar. Let's see, data protection, intellectual property, when downloading software product, blah 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 blah. Most of these have similar limitations, with the exceptions of maybe a few specifications. I'm not going to read through all of this because I'm sure for some of you this is boring, and to be frank, I'm like, all right, I'm starting to get bored myself. The point is, make sure you read the terms of agreement. ImageLine, again, it has something similar, although they're a little bit different. The primary thing with ImageLine to consider is if you're trying out their product, you can use the product indefinitely. This one here, you can use the product if you're trying it out for demonstration purposes. However, if you start selling music, you need to buy the product, and that is in their EULA. If you start, if you have the dummy version and you've been using that to make beats, you know, I would encourage you to save your money and go ahead and get the paid version. Even if you just got the $99 version and then upgrade it to the $200 version. So there's that. But again, read your EULAs. My advice, if you have the question in your head, so especially as a sound designer, well, what can I use to make beats? My suggestion to you would be to invest in hardware. Start saving your money, invest in hardware, get some good analog equipment, or you can get digital. You just have to make sure they're not exclusively Romplers. So again, you're like, if you got a Korg Triton and you were going to make a Korg Triton sample pack, I would probably avoid that. Again, because you're dealing with intellectual property that belongs to Korg. If you got the Korg Mini Lug or the Prologue or anything like that, and you learned how to program it and you made some patches and you sold that, or made melody loops and you sold that, you probably be good to go, because now you're programming the synthesizer yourself. But if you, let's say you buy a Roland JV 1080, 1010, or any of those type of synthesizers, I would not recommend using that to try to sell, sample packs, loop packs, or things like that, unless you want to catch a lawsuit or have any of your earnings confiscated. Because again, when you're dealing with those type of products, you're dealing with someone else's intellectual property. So again, my suggestion is, if you're a sound designer and you want to learn how to make good products and make your own libraries, invest in hardware. Get you a good analog or analog modeling piece of equipment. Get you a good FM synthesizer. Get you a good wavetable synthesizer, and go to work. And even then, read your EULAs, because some of that old hardware has, terms of agreement that they want you to adhere to. All right. So, and yeah, I'm not even gonna. We talked about FL Studio. FL Studio is its own animal, because it's the most pirated, one of the most pirated softwares out there, and people get really passionate about, to use or not to use pirated software. Again, to each his own. I get it, but in 2021, there's no excuse to be stealing at this point in the game, especially when there's so much free stuff out here that you can use to get started. But people will do what they do. So that is all I wanted to share for now in this video. Have a good one.